Mark Bell, my man, how are you?
I'm doing awesome. I'm doing really good.
Why does your family like to be so strong?
Oh man, we've been obsessed with strength since I can remember. Since I was a kid, I got into powerlifting at probably around 11 or 12 years old, which is
Isn't that a little young to be powerlifting?
it's highly unlikely. Yeah, it's not very common.
Yeah.
Two older brothers that were into it.
Mm-hmm.
My uncle was big into wrestling, pro wrestling, and so we started watching that at a young age. And we were just always obsessed with muscle. And even at a very young age, for some reason, we all gravitated towards that.
Mm-hmm.
And I always felt that in some way, in some shape or form, fitness, strength, muscle is going to be the answer. And so I stuck with it for a long time, and here we are.
The thing about exterior gains like
Yeah.
that is it's very reliable. It's like a clear trajectory and you can see it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like the interior work is confusing and it goes backwards and forwards and you don't really know where you are. There's no external validation other than the thoughts going on in your own mind.
Right.
But when you're adding on size, you can get on a scale, you can look in the mirror and you can see it. And I think that's very gratifying for a human being
absolutely.
to see, okay, I'm doing this, I'm applying this effort and it's yielding these results.
Right.
Right. So I see, and I have it myself. It's a very simple way. Like for me, going to the gym is the most relaxing thing I do.
Yeah.
Because I know that I can reliably follow a protocol that will yield reliable results.
Yeah, I love it, and that's been the case for me. School was always confusing for me. I always sucked when it came to that kind of thing, but lifting was always very black and white. You either kind of put in the work,
Right.
or you didn't. You either got stronger or you didn't. And aesthetics aside, because aesthetics can be confusing too, and aesthetics can take a lot of time. Aesthetics take almost more dedication in some ways because you have to have some victories with the diet every single day, which is a tough
Sure.
spot for a lot of people. But when it comes to strength, it was always just very black and white. Is your program working? Is it not? Every time you retested your bench, squat, or deadlift, if it went down, your program's not working.
Mm-hmm.
You're not consistent. There was something lacking. But even more so than that, I've always loved pushing myself. I've always loved pushing my body. I've always loved getting into this like warp zone. When you do like a high rep set of squats and you do like a set of 20, and you're at rep number 7, and it hurts. That's the kind of shit that I love. That's my kind of party. I'm like, okay, this is where I need to be. Now, I can't think of another scenario in life where you can get to those same things unless it's some athletic endeavor, unless it's something physical. I'd imagine you do bear hunts and stuff. You probably get to a similar situation when you're hunting. You probably get in some precarious positions and shit gets real here and there. But
yeah, no, I mean, I'm not a big hunter, but I can imagine where it would, especially if you're like spot and stalk
Right.
and you're like really in the flow there.
Adrenaline, I guess, is
Sure.
part of what I'm talking about. But I love the feeling of I don't know what this is going to result in, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to recover or breathe from this. But I don't care. This is what I'm doing.
Yeah, putting yourself up against a stern force of resistance and
Right.
seeing what's going to happen on the other side. I think for me, I've always experienced that in the gym, but I've also found that in some of my spiritual path, which is the plant medicine path, because
Right.
there's a point where you're drinking, you finish your cup of ayahuasca and you're waiting, and you don't know if all hell's going to break loose or if you don't know if it's going to be the most pleasurable, pleasant experience of your
Right.
life, where you're seeing the most beautiful patterns and colors and interactions with clever and gorgeous spirit guides and animals.
Yeah.
And it's going to be that, or whether you're going to face the heart of darkness itself. But there's that moment where you're just waiting, and it's before the shaman's Icaros kick in, and it's dark, and maybe you're puffing a mapacho, and it's like, here we go. Like you got to be ready for that. And so I think there's different ways that people can access that, but
Some
the
parallels.
gym, there's some parallels. But the gym is that simple thing where you have iron that is not going to move itself.
Right.
And you have to apply your effort, your force, your will in order to make that happen.
Yeah, and you're talking about the spiritual side of things, and something that I really enjoyed was years ago I went to a Joe Rogan stand-up comedy routine,
Mm-hmm.
and I was completely floored. I've never touched, other than steroids, which everybody that's out there for everybody to know because they've seen bigger, stronger, faster. I never really messed with anything. I never smoked a cigarette. I never tried weed. I never tried anything like that. And so Joe Rogan, his comedy routine, he was talking about these psychedelic drugs and what they do, and I just found that to be really fascinating. It's not anything I ever messed with. I guess the furthest down that rabbit hole I may have been is occasionally I take some Kratom. You're probably familiar with that kind of product.
I am, and I want to talk to you about that more because that's a really interesting plant that I think people need to know a bit more about.
But I haven't really messed around with too many of those like psychedelic type drugs. And, I just find it fascinating, though. Even though I'm not from that world, I still find the fact that a lot of our greatest music, a lot of our greatest inventions have been built off the back of LSD and other
No doubt.
Other drugs, and it's is that performance enhancing? Like, does that kind of go back to some of the concepts of bigger, stronger, faster, where, hey, is this cheating? Obviously it's not the same because you're not in like direct competition in the same way, but life is a competition, so
It's certainly a cheat code for me. It's
Yeah,
a cheat
right.
code to happiness. It's a cheat code to peace of mind. It's a cheat code to de-stress and reprioritization and love and all of these things. And sometimes it'll yield business success. I remember one of my first ayahuasca journeys really showed how I could create a company that abided by more conscious principles but still yielded, great profits and great results. And that's been a bit of a guiding light, is like how to push forward this company in the right way.
Are there some dangers to it? Doing
Of course. I mean, it's ultimately a trial by fire. It is loading the squat rack up with a little bit more weight than you think you've ever handled before.
Makes
and
sense.
saying, I'm going to rep this out. Now, will I strain a hammy? Will I blow out a knee? Will I be on Friday fails on Men's Health because I did something even more ridiculous as I was trying to film something for the gram and fucking weights fall off my back? Or you don't know what's going to happen, but ultimately, if you do it in the right set and setting, basically with the right coach, the shaman in that would be like the program setter or the right coach.
Right.
They'll load you with the right amount of weight for what you can handle, and then generally you can come out with a reliable win if you recover. And that's the other thing. If you continue, same working out analogy. Like if you went and did leg day 5 days in a row and didn't sleep in between, then you're going to be fucked up. You're not going to have gains. You're going to have an injury.
Oh yeah, no, you're going to be,
or at least
overtrained.
be completely catabolic.
Right.
And that's what I think a lot of people do on this plant medicine path, is they'll overtrain. They'll overtrain their psyche without recovering. They'll do session after session after session after session, and then they'll come in and I'll see them and they'll be like a fucking lightning rod, like all of this scattered energy. Nothing has gotten grounded. Nothing has gotten integrated. And there's somewhere between this world and the next world. And you're like, whoa, man, you need to like go camping and chill and stare into a fire and like sleep and float and like
everyone can use a reset.
Hug some dogs. Like, I don't know, man, but stop doing medicine for sure.
Yeah.
And then there's people who need to stop lifting, stop training and just let the body relax and recover.
Yeah, people definitely overdo it in all aspects. And I think if you can pause a little bit and avoid listening to all the noise that's going on around you and focus and hone in on the things that are important, then I think you're getting somewhere. But I think in general, people need to be able to hit a reset button. I recently read a book called Keto Reset, in that book, basically I think anyone can do.
It's not Mark's new book.
It's Mark Sisson,
It's Mark's new book, yeah.
Yeah. Anyone can follow some of these core principles. Ditch carbohydrates for a while, and when you bring them back, they'll be more effective. If you even want to bring them back, you might decide that you don't need them. Maybe you don't need nearly as many as you thought you did. Mm-hmm. But the average person is going around
Problem with
just not.
I'll tell you, I love the low carb lifestyle, and it makes a huge difference for my energy. If you're chasing that blood sugar dragon, and you're going up, and then you're going hypoglycemic, and then you're getting more. It's a mess. It's a mess for my productivity in the day. I end up reaching for more caffeine, having to do a bunch of other stuff. But the problem is, like, you look at eating avocado, and then you look at toast, and you're like, damn, it's so much better when it's on toast.
Yeah.
Or I'll look at my pantry and like, I see that guacamole. I could eat it with a spoon, but the chips would make it way better. And that's what ends up fucking with me always at the end. So I haven't been able to go to that. And not that I necessarily need to. I'm a pretty lean guy, and, it's not like it's a necessity, but I end up inevitably falling in that lower carb rather than full keto, just because it's hard to get all of it out.
I think that matters, though, because people just always throw around the word keto, and I think to get results and to have the body that you want, you don't necessarily need to be in nutritional ketosis.
Yep.
For the mental clarity, maybe somebody can make an argument and say, yeah, you need to be producing a large amount of ketones to get the response you're looking for. But other than that, if you're losing weight or you're staying lean or you're keeping or maintaining the weight that you want, I think you're good to go.
You know, it was interesting. I got a little respiratory cold recently, like 2 weeks ago, and generally that seriously diminishes my productivity. But I decided, like, all right, I'm going to couple this with strict ketogenic diet. You know, like just basically bone broth, green juice,
Right.
you know, some avocado, some like high fat, some blended mushroom drinks with some MCT, and keep it really light. And what was remarkable is I was almost, even with the cold, more mentally productive.
Yeah.
You know, just by following that strict regimen. I recovered faster and I was able to stay productive through it. So the mental advantage for me is really clear. So I end up having most of my carbs probably towards the end of the night.
Right.
Because that way I can get through a full productive day, and then at night when I'm kind of relaxing and unwinding, and I can bear the burden of a little, you know, blood sugar swing,
Right.
while I'm watching Stranger Things or something and trying to let my mind rest. That tends to work for me.
Yeah, that makes sense. But I think, you know, a lot of people can kind of hit that reset button as I'm talking about. And I've noticed with a lot of people I've helped lose weight, they can start to ingest 100, 150, 200 grams of carbs and still lose weight while following a keto style diet. I'm not saying that they're in nutritional ketosis while consuming that amount of calories, but they're still on a very moderate to low carb meal plan. Just maybe on some of their training days, they're throwing in a little bit of extra carbs. And so something to think about is if you alter your body composition, then you're going to have an opportunity to eat more carbohydrates.
Totally.
Your body's going to want those carbohydrates too, especially if you're training a lot. The other thing I think people make the mistake of is forgetting the fact how important carbohydrates are. We don't necessarily need them. That's not really the greatest word for them, but they are a great tool and they are a great weapon. And there still is no better energy source or no faster energy source than a carbohydrate. It's not even debatable. It wins every time when you look at professional athletes. You talk about high performance. If we're talking about getting lean, then that ends up being a different conversation. But even for getting lean, there's no bodybuilder that steps on stage without carbohydrates in their system.
Yeah.
And so a lot of these things are already known. Bodybuilders have used ketogenic style diets for years. I started a ketogenic style diet in the mid 90s just to lose weight because I was fat when I was in school and I was trying to make a weight class for powerlifting. You know, so I've been messing around with it for a long time, since the days of Dan Duchesne, who wrote the Body Opus book years ago, and my brother and I have been kind of tinkering with it ever since.
Yeah, I mean, when I said about working with all the experts and putting together the nutrition plan for my upcoming book launch, really, you know, speaking with Mark Sisson at length and understanding that idea of being a 2-fuel burner, you know, same with Ben Greenfield, all these, I think really that's the target that we should be able to go, you know, really adapt our body to a higher fat lifestyle, go for stretches where we're compressing our feeding window, go for stretches where we are dipping into nutritional ketosis, just to train the body to be able to do that. And then on the days we train, you know, indulging in a you know, chunk of sourdough bread with some grass-fed butter, you know, or
why
having
is that
some
so
rice
good?
pasta.
How is that? You know what I mean?
So
like,
good.
It doesn't make any sense why it's so good. Just bread and butter.
It does. You know, it's funny when you've been keto for a while and you taste bread, it tastes different. You're like, this is a funny thing, this bread. It's a funny substance. But yeah, I think that makes the most sense for most people. And I think keto is now, there's obviously the scientists and the doctors who will keep referring to that very strict ketogenic definition. And I think when Onnit uses keto and when I use keto and when a lot of people use
Basically
it, they're
low
really
carb.
basically saying very low carb. You know, some kind of modified Atkins, high fat, higher protein, higher fiber, higher vegetable, lower carbohydrate, lower sugar. And if people can just mostly do that and put high quality nutrients in their body, they're just going to feel so much fucking better.
Yeah. I got to say, you know, it's a perfect fit having Kyle Kingsbury working here. I've known Kyle for a few years now. And when a friend of mine told me that he was working for you guys, I was thinking, oh shit, that's a perfect scenario. But I was also picturing Kyle out front on the main road out there in a supplement bottle with white gloves, waving a sign that said Onnit Academy, dancing back and forth in his short shorts.
It's Speedos.
Yeah,
Let's get it right.
Why?
He goes straight Speedo. He doesn't
Why
even
the
bother.
Speedo?
He doesn't even bother with the short shorts. Too much fabric.
That should be a skit in here. All you guys should be in Speedos.
That's awesome. So I want to go back to Kratom because you've been pretty open also about your family's addiction issues with painkillers, and Kratom is one of those compounds that has a lot of promise. Now, Kratom is also the substrate by which they make the main non-opioid painkiller, which is tramadol. Right? Don't they synthesize it from some of the compounds in Kratom?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's different because you're using the whole plant, kind of ground up Mangda or whatever, name that locally it's called. And it has a really interesting effect because it's somewhat of a painkiller, but it's somewhat of a stimulant and it's somewhat of a depressant. It's a very complex plant.
It's a hard thing to describe, even the feeling of it.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, for myself, I really like it a lot. The years of powerlifting just helped take the edge off a little bit. One thing I also noticed with it is I like to have some wine here and there. And when I drink, I'll just drink a lot less. I'll have like one glass, maybe 2 glasses rather than having 3 or 4. The big problem with me having 3 or 4 glasses of wine is then I want to just eat like whatever I can get my hands on. So then it screws up my diet, kind of messes up my next day and so on. But Kratom has a way of relaxing you. But I also think that a really cool benefit of it is going back to that creativity that we were talking about earlier. I really feel it helps me to be more creative.
Yeah.
I haven't really noticed any negative sides. I have taken it before where I've gotten a little nauseous. I have noticed occasionally when I'm in the middle of saying something that I'm kind of just losing my words and stuff like that. I've noticed some like maybe short-term memory loss, but haven't really noticed any like real ill effects that I would consider to be like a red flag. I don't feel addicted to it or anything like that either.
It's interesting. It seems to be dose dependent whether it's really stimulating or really relaxing.
Yeah.
Like in the higher doses, it'll really relax you, like super relaxing. In lower doses, it feels pretty energizing, and so it's been interesting playing with that plan and just understanding how complex it really is. And the idea that, I know that the FDA was looking to ban its import, for a little while. And I think people rallied behind that and kind of put a stay of execution on that because it's just a great resource and it's a great plant ally when used appropriately that can help people who have, challenges with, this kind of constant pain noise and the highly addictive nature of these opioids, which once they grab a hold of you, they got claws. They got like those fish hooks that are going to be real hard to get out.
Yeah, my brother Mike, he passed away years ago. He had addictions on and off for years with any and everything you can think of. He was an addict through and through. He's done it just about every drug you can think of. For my brother Chris, he went through a similar situation as well, where he started getting addicted to painkillers. He started getting addicted to, or he started to become an alcoholic as well. And he was, falling down that slippery slope as well. And luckily for me, I have a very supportive family, very supportive wife. And, we did rally around my brother Mike, but it was just probably too little too late. This time around, we were like, you know what? Fuck that. That ain't happening again. We can't afford to go through the same thing again. So we rallied around him the best we could. We knew more, we kind of knew that, people that are listening to this, that are related to people or that are friends with people that might be addicts or might be bipolar, just know that they are gonna lie to you. They are gonna be full of shit, and you do have to take matters into your own hands. And that's what we did with my brother Chris. We got him to a treatment center, and everything ended up, thank God, everything ended up working out really well for him. But addiction is a crazy thing, and I think a lot of times we have, we're so judgmental. We're so quick to judge everything and anything that we see, and I think that we feel that we're above it, and we feel that, oh, it ain't gonna happen to me, or man, it's a slippery slope. You can fall into any of it at any moment, whether it be even with people that are heavy, even with people that are overweight. I think people will be like, oh man, they're lazy, they're this, they're that. You could very well find yourself in a similar situation. What if you got in a car wreck couldn't exercise anymore.
Sure.
And what if, when you were a kid, you had, a sweet tooth and stuff. You can easily slip back into some of those things. And it's just something that everyone should be aware of. And I think people should be conscious of that it could be a real issue with a lot of people around you. And it could be something that you end up having trouble with, and you might not even realize it.
Yeah, it's it's a very complex issue, that I don't think people who haven't been through it can really understand how. But all of us have our own addictions, have our own things where we've rationalized, doing it, whether it's, in our diet. Yeah. Maybe it's something with sugar. We're like, no, I'm not addicted to sugar. But really, you've had the intention of not eating sugar.
Coffee, yeah.
You've had the intention of not doing it, and you've convinced yourself to give yourself permission to do it. We have to understand that there's these opposing forces, that the self is very complex, and that there's these opposing forces, and occasionally these forces will hijack our thinking so that our thinking becomes non-rational to a certain degree, that we're acting against our own long-term best interest for kind of the short-term benefit, and we'll find a way to rationalize that.
It's so difficult to have any sort of free thinking.
Yeah.
Because there's so much shit going on around us all the time with social media and all the different things that we see. And I think we lose sight of the fact that people that we put up on a pedestal, people that they write stories about, people that they make monuments of and stuff like that, the real difference between those people and everybody else, they have one thing in common, and it's usually that they're original. And having originality is a tough thing. And coming here to the Onnit Academy, I think is really cool. It's a cool opportunity for me because I've rubbed elbows with everybody in the fitness industry. I've been to most facilities, and 9 times out of 10, I'm very unimpressed. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, wow, these guys got a facade going on. Like, they're just insta-famous, or they just have this thing going on, and they don't really have a true business. They don't have a true mission. They don't have a true... It's not what I thought it was, and I'm always disappointed. I'm like, fuck, man, these guys kind of suck. But coming here to this establishment, this is really cool. And everybody is on board. And I'm not saying that to sit here and just kiss your ass. I saw it with my own 2 eyes as I walked through the offices. People are like, hey, you going to go to lunch? And I'm like, no, I'm going to go train. I heard that as I was walking through these offices. And then there's a shitload of people doing jiu-jitsu. There's a shitload of people doing steel mace. There's just people all over the place exercising. And I see all the coaches. I've been here before and did a seminar. Most of the guys remembered me. A lot of the staff knew that I was coming in because I think Kyle made them aware. Which all those things are crucial towards getting everybody excited about the brand.
Yeah.
Oh, Mark Bell's coming in. Who the fuck's Mark Bell? Well, he's a powerlifter, and he invented some products, and here's what he's done. And we're inviting him down. He's going to be on our podcast, and this is what we're doing. I do the same exact thing at my gym, and I strive to have something like this. And in fact, when my brother came down here, I was telling my brother for years, I was like, man, I can't wait until I have everything all situated, where I have most of my stuff under one roof. For a long time, I had my gym separate from everything else, and now we got like a 25,000 square foot spot, and we have some warehousing, and we have our employees, and the gym is all under one roof. And but I was dreaming of that for a long time. My brother's like, man, I just met with Aubrey Marcus, and I went to the Onnit Academy. He's like, it was fucking sick. This dream you're talking about, having everything under one roof. He's like, they got a lot of that going on there. It's really cool. So for me, I always think a lot of things are about perspective. And if you can kind of view things from a different vantage point, it can really inspire you. You can see things from the other side, and you can kind of better understand where someone's coming from, or what somebody has, or why they have it. I can sit here and look at all this and not be jealous of it. I can just say, that is fucking cool.
There's so much room. That's a internal character flaw. If you look at somebody else's success and it makes you feel like, they're taking money out of your pocket, or they're taking something from you, you have the wrong mentality, because there's plenty of room. There's abundance out there. This is not some narrow, cutthroat, monopolized
How many
environment,
people have made millions of dollars in the supplement industry? A lot, right?
No doubt. And fitness and health, there's ample room for everybody to play. And I think if you have that scarcity mindset, you got to look internally first. No one is stopping you. You're the only one who's stopping you. And I think and I appreciate all the kind words and everything you're saying. And I think that is also part of the key is the facades, especially now in today's age, you can't get away with the facade.
No, like, not going to work for
It
very
doesn't
long.
work anymore. Not with social media, not with the way that people are able to access information, not with how tuned in and how awake people are.
Right.
Like if it's not real through to the bone, and people are going to start scratching a few layers off and they're going to see the truth.
Right.
So you gotta live and embody the truth. If you're going to be inspirational, be that person, like be the person who you're pretending to be. And
Absolutely.
That's the only way it's really going to work long term. And that's always what you strive. And if you come up short, don't paper mache over your mistakes and your failures. And when it say like, pretend it didn't happen, go open up about that too, because that just makes people realize, oh yeah, that's real.
Yeah.
That's human. Like truth is always better than perfection, because perfection is bullshit. So put out your truth.
I think, today what happened to Matt Lauer, he got fired, he got released for sexual harassment, which is a huge.
This thing just doesn't stop.
No,
I don't watch the news. So like, this is the first time I'm hearing of this. And it's like fucking Louis C.K. shit.
Yeah.
Like I had a Louis C.K. joke reference in my book, like about this joke that he was telling. And then,
now it ain't so funny anymore.
It's not funny.
Right?
And we had to pull it out of the book. We're like, well, yeah, probably shouldn't use that reference.
It just might upset people. Like maybe what he did is
and
really
justifiably
horrific.
so, probably,
Yeah, could be.
It's just so crazy that these people, that it's just one after the other the other now that the power structures are changing. And I could hypothesize that it could go overboard, but it certainly seems in this case, there was like this kind of systemic oppression of abuse that's now coming to light. So it's really an interesting time. Matt fucking Lauer?
Yeah,
what?
I know.
That guy?
Yeah.
Fuck, man. He's a good-looking, famous, wealthy dude. What are you doing? You don't need to be a predator.
Right.
Like, you have a fucking buffet out there. Why are you stealing food? You know what I mean? It's like, what the fuck is wrong with him?
Yeah. No, I agree, but I think the easiest thing for him to do, well, it wouldn't necessarily be easy, but I can go on Facebook Live. We have social media.
No shit, right?
And say, hey, you know what? I was a fucking dirtbag, and you guys know about this one case, and there's 2 or 3 others that I'm ashamed to admit today that happened. Here's what it is. Take all that shit away from people. Don't let people,
don't let
bury
people
you forever with all this shitstorm of stuff that's going to come, right? And hopefully what he did isn't that horrific. Hopefully it's maybe just a couple comments or something that wasn't too crazy, But regardless, why not just come out? And we have social media, and I think lawyers aside and all this shit, like just take all that away and go tell the people what you did. I think a lot of people will be like, yeah, man, you know what? There is a lot of fucking pussy out there, and I get it.
I think everybody should wake up and now not be waiting in terror. Like if you've done some shit and you fucked up in the past, like just come out, you know, like come out and come clean, and just
it makes sense.
Let people know, like, because otherwise, you're just going to be sitting there terrified of what's going on. Like deal with your own demons, like deal with your own shadow. There should be no situation where you intentionally make someone feel bad.
Yeah.
Like, just don't fuck. It's not fucking worth it.
Yeah.
I there's no room and there's no need for that. And if you've been a part of that, we've all look, I can think back to when I was a kid and I got caught up bullying when I was in kindergarten and first grade. I remember I was swinging on the swing set and there was this kid kind of cruising by and I leaped off the swing set and tackled him for no reason. Why did I do that? I don't know. I was dumb. I was in kindergarten. And I decided I wanted to fucking swing set ninja attack this random kid. But I shouldn't have done that. But I didn't know enough
7
yet. Yeah. I mean, younger, 6,
Yeah.
And thinking back, you're not the same person that you were then. And I think people have to realize that. And people can't always hold you to the standards, but you first have to admit to the person that you were.
Right.
In kindergarten, I bullied that kid when I fucking flying squirreled off the swing set into the fucking sandbox on him.
Right.
But I'm not kindergarten Aubrey anymore.
Right.
So admit where you've been wrong and then express look, I'm not that dude anymore. And I feel bad. I don't remember that kid's name. And if he's out there, dude, I'm fucking sorry.
Sorry,
why
bro.
did I swing set, attack you? I shouldn't have, you know what I mean? And that's, I think, what everybody needs to do. That you just need to realize, all right, apologize for what's in the past, realize that you're a different person now, and set forward with a new kind of mentality, a new
Yeah.
idea.
And there's a lot of temptation out there. And so I think, again, just by saying the message on social media, I think a lot of people would, not that you want people to support Matt Lauer, especially if what he did is true and stuff, but if he did come out and say it, I think that people would understand it better.
Yeah.
They would say, yeah, you know what? There is a lot of attractive stuff going on out there. There is a lot of temptation, and other people might relate to it. And they might say, shit, I probably overstepped my bounds here and there too.
I always thought that Tiger Woods should have taken a different approach when his stuff came out, because all his Tiger stuff seemed perfectly consensual.
Yeah.
Right. And I think he should have just owned it and just
Right.
been like, listen, I'm Tiger Woods. I love pussy.
Yeah.
Like
His shit really fell apart. Like everything,
like his golf, everything fell apart because I think he was forced to live a lie. Oh, that's not me. I was addicted. I'm going to go to this rehab. Just like,
Yeah.
no, Tiger, you're a savage and you love deviant sex. Like,
Right.
that's cool. You're also super good at golf. Like,
Yeah.
and that's I think a good distinction there too. Is there was no aspect in what my recollection was, and I could be wrong, and people feel free to correct me in that. But it didn't seem predatory. It seemed like very much like two consenting adults deciding to be freaks.
Right.
Like, fine. Like, don't bother. Don't fucking bother Tiger about that.
Yeah.
That's an issue between him and the arrangement that he has with his wife and the arrangement that he has,
Right.
which is different than this kind of predatory mentality, which you're doing things against someone's consent.
Right.
And I think we have to be careful and not lump those things together. Like, people are going to be freaks, and
Yeah.
that's cool as long as both people decide that they want to get freaky.
We're desensitized to stuff though too, and I
Yeah.
think somebody like Tiger Woods, who has $100 million thrown at him when he's, I don't even know, 16 years old or something, whatever the hell it was, some sort of monumental contract when he was really young. It's got to be hard to get stimulus at a certain point. I imagine that he's seen and done and been everywhere, and at a certain point, that's why certain religions will have the women, they'll cover up head to toe. All you'll see is their eyes. In some religions, you never even see a woman's hair on their head until you get married. There's certain things where people are,
And
maybe
that's some weird oppressive shit too.
right, and maybe that's taking it way too far.
Yeah.
But some of that makes some sense.
If everybody's as long as everybody's choosing whatever the fuck they want to do, it's all about choice. As long as you have the full agency of choice, then go for it. Do whatever. Because there's also, for someone who's in such a high pressure position, like, sex is a natural way to get out of your own head, especially when you start layering in something like power exchange and start layering in some of the more
power tools,
fringe sexual practices. There's actual science showing that, the dominant in a sexual relationship experiences a deep, deep sense of flow state. And in flow state, all of your thoughts about what tournament's coming up, what your sponsor's saying, what social media is going on, all of the pressure, what happens in flow state? All of that gets quiet. And sometimes we can use our genitals to get into flow state, and then for the submissive in that, and there's tons of research backing it up, they experience a similar type of flow state called transient hypofrontality, which is, again, this sense of loss of time, timelessness. You're fully out of your body.
Right.
So it's two people choosing to engage in a flow state practice that just happens to involve their genitals.
Right.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it. Enjoy that thing and stop fucking bothering with people about it. And I think that's, another thing that we need to realize, that, sex is not a big deal. It's the predatory abuse of power that is the big deal. And I'm glad all of that shit's coming out.
Yeah, I can't imagine what's going to happen next almost,
This is probably just the tip of the iceberg. It's just going to be more and more people. And hopefully, like we're talking here, people just realize, like, all right, I'm going to come clean, and then maybe start to really review who they are and what they're doing, and like what that impact is. I remember, for me, I had a really powerful realization once. This was like 4 years ago in a different on and office over here, and I was trying to record a pretty important time-sensitive video because small company. I was doing a lot of stuff. We had a video that we needed to get out, and I'm in the middle of recording the video in my office. And someone's knocking on the door. Knock, knock, knock. Ignore it. Keep going with the video. Charge through. Keep my focus. Keep on track. It's a longer videos. We're hoping to do one take. Knock, knock, knock. No answer. I'm still doing my video. Knock, knock, knock. And then by the third one, I was like, you fucking knock you don't get a reply, it means you don't keep knocking. So I blew up. I was like, what do you want? I'm in the middle of filming a fucking video. Right? I didn't know who was behind the door, and I was like, oh man, I just fucking lost my temper. I go out, and it was like literally the sweetest person in our company, and I go out, and she's in tears, and I'm like, oh fuck. And I made like a real vow at that point, like, yeah, all right, maybe I had some reason to be a little annoyed, and but there's never an excuse to not reflect on what my actions are and how those actions might affect another individual.
Perspective too, right? You know, from her perspective,
Right.
This is really important to Aubrey. He mentioned that to me, and I need to make sure that I relay this message to him.
Exactly.
It could have been something small, but maybe she felt,
Yeah.
and she feels involved and engaged in the company, engaged in what you're doing.
And so, in those instances, you got to look at that and then take that opportunity to reflect. All of us have done shit that we're not proud of, and that's one example of something that I'm not proud of. But what do you do after that? What do you do? How do you become better from it? How do you learn from that? I mean, I was thinking about that the other day. Like, there's people who've been drunk and killed someone drunk driving, and then you got to live the rest of your life.
Could you imagine trying to recover from that?
I was thinking about that, and I was like, wow. Like, we think the things that we're guilty about are a burden, but if you do that, you got to really just learn, and you ultimately still have to forgive yourself so that you can live the kind of life that will benefit yourself and other people from that point. It doesn't make it better by you punishing yourself by going into a depressive, addictive, suicidal, self-destructive despair. It says, all right, look, I took something off the game board because of my own negligence and because of my own lack of thinking. How can I make that up? First of all, I got to be a fully functioning human. First of all, I got to correct the pain and anything that's inside, and then dedicate myself exactly to going out and helping other people.
I mean, everyone's texting when they're driving and stuff like that too. So
right,
it's possible to to hurt yourself or hurt somebody else or kill somebody, while you're looking at your phone. It's crazy. And there's science that shows looking at your phone, you drive worse looking at your phone than you do if you're drunk.
I believe it.
It's insane. It's a huge.
I believe it, and that's something that we all have to realize. Again, it's a good reflection point. Like, yeah, maybe you're getting away with it this time, but what if something happened? And what if you have to bear that burden? Like, it can wait. 15 minutes of disconnection can wait. You can use that time to listen to a podcast, relax. We can't be on all the time, anyways.
Yeah.
We need time to decompress, and driving can be a relaxing thing. It doesn't have to be road rage. You can be bringing things that make you fill up your mind, mindfulness. We talk about this also in the book. Mindfulness, filling your mind with information and content and audiobooks, and then mindfulness, where you just focus on your breath, focus on breathing through your belly into your seatbelt. So that lower abdomen is stretching out against the seatbelt, and you're relaxing your thoughts and almost entering like a meditative flow state. Either one of those is going to be beneficial. And then, when you get home, you can hit the text, you can hit the emails, you can hit whatever else you need to hit. But giving yourself short moments to reset, I think, is also really important.
Being irrational, having the ability to reason and to be rational is what makes us human.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. Like, it's the difference between us being the way that we are versus us being a beast or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. It's one of the few things that we have, and I think that a lot of times people aren't mindful of it. They're not thinking of it. They're not thinking of, what's it like to be that person, or what's it like to. I can't speak about certain things because I've never been on that side. I don't know what it's like to grow up in a household that's full of abuse. I can only imagine. I'll have people that admire me that say, "Hey, what you're doing is great. Or, this is great." And to me, that's really cool, and it makes me feel really good that I made somebody else feel really good. But to me, a lot of the stuff, I don't know if it should be viewed as great. My life has been awesome. I have two awesome parents that are super supportive. And I, even though I grew up in a supportive household, we just like everybody else, we did run into some tragedies and stuff like that too. But I feel that everything has been a pretty smooth progression. And so I really feel for people when they say that, sexual abuse with children and stuff like that. I mean, I just don't even understand how you'd ever overcome something like that. How do you ever come out the other end of that?
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's something that I've been able to kind of firsthand take a glimpse at because I'm, been doing a lot of work with MAPS, the
Hmm.
Multidisciplinary Association of Psychedelic
Yeah.
Studies, and they've been doing a lot of work on that trauma. And it really seems that the best tool available is that um, MDMA-assisted psychotherapy, both for post-traumatic stress that comes from war or
Mm.
the trauma that comes from sexual abuse. And I've witnessed firsthand
Wow.
a single session where someone who had massive sexual abuse and physical abuse growing up go from the rage of the incident, the injustice of, first of all, not even remembering. They didn't even go into the session remembering
Hmm.
that was what happened. They had this kind of vague idea,
What
and
a crazy thing that
they've
is too.
felt crazy tension their whole life, and they've
Yeah.
been very driven and all of these things. And they had this just flashes of memory that they buried. They go into it, they realize, oh my God, I remember everything. I remember exactly what it felt like. I remember exactly what happened. But you're in such a safe and loving internal neurochemical environment that also allows great introspection. You got blindfolds and music and people who are supporting you in a
Right.
really kind of safe container. And, and again, I'm not advocating anybody just take some Molly off the street and try
Yeah.
and do this on your own. This is a very protocol driven
Gotcha. Yeah.
process. But watch them go from remembering to processing the rage of the incident, to processing the injustice of the incident, to ultimately processing the understanding that who is perpetrating that on them probably had that happen to them,
Mm.
to move into forgiveness for that incident, and then eventually move from forgiveness to this kind of universal love, like, and sympathy for what they went through that drove them to do that, and also the guilt that they must be harboring, and release it. And that was in the course of 4 hours after
That's
35
insane.
years of therapy, every different other treatment.
Right.
And that's what the research is showing from MAPS. The research is showing that 3 sessions of MDMA-assisted psychotherapy is curing 2 out of 3 people from, you know, post-traumatic stress disorder,
That's
any
crazy.
kind of trauma. Not just treating like with a cocktail of 10
Mhm.
drugs, which, you and your brother really elucidated in
Yeah.
Prescription Thugs, is not really getting anybody anywhere and has a host
Yeah.
of other side effects. This is 3 sessions. You don't ever have to take it again. And not only are you curing 2 out of 3 people, those people continue to get better
Mm.
on their own without any other further intervention years following.
That's crazy.
It's
That's really
wild.
cool.
Like, the world is going to change when those treatments are available, not just for our veterans, but for all of us who carry this trauma. And that's, something that I'm really focused on when I look at, and it frustrates, sorry to go on this rant
No,
here,
it's
but
good.
it frustrates me when I look at like how much money we'll throw around to, this little disaster cleanup or this little cause
Right.
here. And that's all good. Like, I'm glad that ALS raised a bunch of money,
Right.
for the Ice Bucket Challenge. That's cool. They raised $100 million. We haven't really seen any progress in that disease
Right.
at all. And it's a very narrow disease. MAPS needs like $5 million to get the phase 3 trials underway.
Mm.
And when the phase 3 trials, which already have FDA breakthrough status, that's already done. So it's going to get fast tracked through. As soon as they get $5 more million, then they start the trials. And then this treatment could be legal. And then the millions and millions of
Yeah.
people who have trauma could have a cure. And it's like the world is just like, yeah, cool. They need 5 million, but whatever. Like, well, let's just fucking throw our money around at this. I'm like,
Yeah.
listen, this is curing trauma. Like, is anybody paying
Yeah.
attention? And it's just it's a weird spot we're in that. And
Yeah.
I think it's because of that street drug stigma
Right.
that MDMA has, that people don't look at it. Because if this was some other kind of, drug from another, a patentable drug from another company, they'd be like, oh yeah, for sure.
Right.
Like,
Right.
they'd have all the funding in the world. They have billions of dollars behind it. But now, since it's a nonprofit
What does
organization,
it do specifically that ends up making the treatment so successful?
yeah, so it's a very serotonergic compound, and I'm not a scientist who can get
Right.
into the actual nitty gritty of what happens, but
You
it
basically just
fosters,
open your mind to some different
yeah, it
concepts type
fosters,
thing.
it floods the body, floods the brain with serotonin, which is the feeling of safety, security, comfort, happiness. But it also has this stimulating effect that allows you to be hyper focused. So in like the street drug setting, presuming you have fairly clean MDMA, your eyes are open, your ears are open, your sensories are open.
Mm.
So you're using that extra heightened focus and sensory ability to draw in external information. Wow, the music sounds amazing. My body feels amazing when I'm dancing. It feels amazing to get touched. The lights are amazing. You're seeing more input and also feeling really good. So it can be nice, but it's not therapeutic. But the therapeutic happens when you blindfold the eyes. You put very kind of calming, soothing music on in noise canceling headphones. You're resting in a very comfortable environment. So the amount of stimulus externally narrows down, and you have all
I
this
think
feelings
school
of
is-
safety and support and comfort, but you have this laser-like focus where you're able to look back into your heart, look back into your memory and say, oh man, this is some stuff that I've been carrying. This is some things that I got to get off my chest. So it
really
takes all
weird
that
what you're
external,
saying.
internal.
What you're saying makes so much sense.
Yeah.
I mean, just with the specific compound you're talking about aside, any drug or having a shot of whiskey before you have a conversation with a therapist makes sense because now you're more open-minded to it.
Right.
And whoever the person is that discovered some of that is incredible because, it's probably somebody that's at a campfire and they the flames were too bright for them and they put some things on. They sat back and they just they zoned out and they're like, oh my God, this is amazing, right? And
Well,
they
it used to
wanted
be
tell
used
people
for
about
this couples therapy, and it's beautiful for that. I've seen it in that context as well. Like we all carry these things that we're not.
Everyone needs
they're
therapy. Of some
triggering
sort.
they're triggering to hear. They're challenging to say. But in that environment, you're able to receive information and share information in a very safe way, where your ego is not so on the defense. It's like lessens that kind of fear and protective and armored state. I mean, it's literally like peeling off all the armor because you realize you don't need it anymore, that you are safe and that you are in a place where you can share that truth. It's a really kind of powerful modality. And then at the same time, you have the psilocybin research that's going on through the Hefter and USONA Institutes, which is showing like cures for depression, anxiety, and the amazing study. They have a smoking cessation trial where a single dose of psilocybin has caused 80% smoking cessation rates. A single dose, like nothing is even coming close to the numbers that are coming out of this psychedelic research. And you can have a very bleak view of the world, but then you look at some of this research that's coming in and say, well, shit, if we could get rid of depression, anxiety, addiction, and trauma in all of these people, the world is fucking different at that point. People are going to be more generous. People are going to be more open. These people that are harboring money and holding on to things because they don't feel safe and the world doesn't seem safe, maybe they're going to want to give it to other people. Maybe they're going to want to help, share it to the world. Maybe they're going to want to help the environment because all of a sudden the environment isn't hell. I look at the people who aren't interested in saving the environment and I'm like, well, that makes sense because if the environment that you live in sucks, might as well fucking burn it to the ground. Might as well harvest all the money you can and say, fuck the world because the world is painful. I don't give a shit. Let it roast.
Right.
You know what I mean? But if you feel good and it feels like heaven every day you wake up and you like hearing the birds chirping and you like that there's animals and flora and fauna and everything is beautiful, well, then maybe you will give a shit about the environment. But that first comes from healing that internal trauma, that thing inside.
Yeah, I think it's the equivalent of going to like a gas station bathroom. Like it's a fucking mess, right? And so you don't give a fuck, and so maybe you do pee on the floor.
That's exactly right. That's exactly the
it's
analogy.
Fucking disgusting, and you're like, oh, okay, this is a grungy ass fucking place. I don't really give a shit about it.
Yeah, if I go to a terrible bathroom and I accidentally piss on the floor because my stream's pointed the wrong way or something
who
like
knows
that.
what happened?
I don't get the little wad of toilet paper and wipe my own little piss.
Your pee stream goes really awkwardly after sex.
It does, right? That's
can't
another
aim
thing.
your
You're
shit.
you're just dropping dimes right now. You're on fire. This is the moment here.
Yeah, people are gonna enjoy that.
But if you're in like a nice like reception or like maybe you go to a nice boutique store and they have like a nice tiled
People
bathroom
taking
floor.
their shoes off when they come in your home. If your house is immaculate,
Yeah,
looks
if,
really
if
good.
I'm in someone else's house and I pee on the floor, I'm for sure cleaning that thing up and like tidying things up. I'm leaving it hopefully like I found it. And that's what our internal environment does. We can be living in that gas station bathroom or we can be living in a really nice bathroom, but it's really not about the bathroom because the bathroom's great. The world is great. It's about our internal, our internal view of that, like how we perceive it.
Have you dealt with anxiety or depression? Like what made you choose to use some of these compounds?
I think we all deal with it to a certain extent. And I think one of the issues we have is we like to categorize things black and white. Addiction, non-addiction. Depression, non-addiction. Anxiety, non-anxiety. Trauma, non-trauma. There's no such thing. It's all on a scale. It's all a gradient. So we've all felt a little bit of that.
Oh,
At
yeah.
what point do you draw the line? Well, clinicians have drawn the line at certain points, but these are common experiences to the human experience. I've found myself depressed, traumatized, addicted, all of the things to a certain degree. Now, where is that magical line that the psychiatrists, some of them agree on, that
Yeah.
causes it? I don't know. I didn't take the tests, but I've felt all of those things before, and that's been part of what's driving my path to both the plant medicine practices and also other practices, just like meditation and yoga and flow and sex and all the
Yeah.
different ways that you can kind of get out of your head and get a release from some of that.
I think anxiety is a huge problem right now
Huge.
with the age category that some people are at, that are kind of on social media, and they're seeing the success of other people, and they're having a hard time digesting it, and they're like, man, I still live with mom, and this cascade, this giant fucking tsunami wave crashes down on their world because they're nothing. They're not anywhere they want to be. And they don't realize that all these things take a long time. If you want to be good at anything, it's going to take an effort. If you want to be great at something, it's going to take every ounce of your fucking being to get there. It's going to take an enormous effort. You're in a better position than you were 10 years ago, but you're working harder. You're not working less.
Yeah.
There are situations where you are trying to optimize things, and you're trying to make them more optimal. So you deal with, like, maybe you're not fucking packaging up the stuff that gets shipped out on Black Friday,
Not
right?
the best use of my time.
It's not the best usage of your time, but you're still fucking really busy, and
No doubt.
there's still a lot of hustle that's involved in it. And I think that people don't grasp they don't have the ability to understand that you don't just start out on fire. You start out with an idea or a concept, you try to move forward with it, and it's going to take you a long time. And we talk about something taking 5 years or 10 years. It may sound like a lot to someone who's 22 or 23 years old. And again, they're going to keep saying, oh man, I don't have this or I don't have that. And they're creating their own anxiety. It's their own shit that they have going on in their head. It's their own shortcomings, that these things are not even really true. Being great is not even a thing. It's
It's a process.
And it's also kind of made up too.
Yeah.
Somebody puts a ball through a hoop and they're great. I don't know. Why is that a thing? I don't know who made that up, but somebody made it up, right? It is a thing. But to me, my dad, who's 5'2" and can't play any sports to save his life, to me, he's great.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody knows who the fuck he is. Doesn't have an Instagram. You know what I mean? And so I think people's definition of being great, people's definition of success, I think is a little skewed. And they really just need to, the ideas or thoughts that they have to understand they just need to put those in motion. It's not going to be perfect. All of us have spent many, many years dicking around. When you ask somebody when they started training, they're going to give you 2 different dates, because they're going to say, oh yeah, I started lifting when I was 15, and then I got more serious about it when I was 19.
Yeah.
They're going to give you 2 different dates. And same thing with when you start this business. When you started this business, you didn't know what the fuck you were doing.
It's true.
You knew some stuff. You knew some things that you wanted to do.
Not nearly what I know now.
Not nearly what you know now. Now everything's like executed, and there's a product launch, and there's a lot of things that are associated with that, with all that, and it's the usage of your knowledge and your experience. But when you don't have any experience, what do you need to do? You need to just get started. You need to get started on an idea, started on a concept. Things don't have to be perfect. You don't need goals. You need to be dicking around. That's what you need to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think the pathway to mental hell is paved in comparison, and I think that's a big issue that we have right now. We are looking at some goal or some expectation that we have and then judging ourselves according to that thing, rather than just saying, all right, how can I get a little bit better now? Like, what can I do now? And I think that's one issue. And then I think the other issue too is there's this idea, I was just talking to someone before this podcast, and she's scrappy and trying to make it on her own in the, personal training business. And, but she's decided that she needs to do it without any help. You know what I mean? Like, nope, got to do it all on my own. And I'm like, that's not even a thing.
Yeah.
Nobody has done anything on their own. It's like this idea that you got to do it all on your own. It doesn't exist. We're tribal, communal creatures by nature. Like, we rely on the help and support of each other to make this thing happen. Like, it doesn't make you less of a person if you ask for help. It just makes you smart. It makes you understand, like, hey, I'm going to go hunt this deer. Do you mind getting some berries and some fucking, veggies so we can have a proper dinner? It's not like you just stay there, do nothing. I'm going to get the deer. I'm going to get the veggies.
I
I'm
got
gonna
everything.
Get the bear. I got it all because I'm a self-made man. I can handle it all. No, it doesn't work that way,
Right.
but we can convince ourselves that it works that way. And so, people ask for help if you're struggling, if you're hurt, if you need, you're not getting where you want. Ask for help. Find a mentor. Listen to podcasts. Get an online course that can change the way you think about things. Like, do something to reach out and just open up, and people will be willing to help you. And that doesn't make it your success any less. That just makes you part of the universe and part of the community the way that you're supposed to be.
You have way more resources than you think. And they used to say there's like 7 degrees of separation. I think nowadays there's just one, because you have access to the internet and you can search stuff and Google stuff, and people are a tweet away, or it's sliding into the DM. You can DM people and you can get access to celebrities and people that you never had access to before.
Yeah.
What was like a driving force for you to start on it?
It's just what I love to do.
What were you doing before that?
I was doing this. I ran a marketing company. I was selling all kinds of things, from sex toys to.
I know your dad has the.
Yeah, my stepdad had the fleshlight. So I was helping him slang fake vaginas, and I worked in investment banking for a little while.
So many people must be so thankful for the
gold mining for a little while. I was like helping with gold mining, investor relations, and I was doing all kinds of stuff. But what I was doing on my own is, I was looking at weird, obscure fitness websites and trying out club training and mace training, and I was
2008.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
and mixing up concoctions of supplements based on these brain scans that I got from this wacky doctor in New York, and he was experimenting with this kind of stuff. So this was the natural thing that I love to do. Like, I was stoked when I found a place where I could buy my first steel mace and found some ways to move it. I was just like floored at what was possible. There was some other thing, and then you get your homies together and everybody tries it. And I had this little garage gym I called El Garage, or El Garaje, because I lived on the east side. And, at that time I was friends with Roger Huertos, an MMA fighter. So he would come in and we'd be training, we'd have mats down, and then we hit the club training and kettlebell training, and we'd be watching videos and be like, how are they even doing that? My shoulders don't even move that way. Yeah. So starting to pattern the shoulder mobility and the things that we needed to get there. So it was just something that I loved. And I think it's always a benefit when you can build a business around something that you love, which is something that, that you've certainly done as well.
Yeah. So you started it off of making mace, steel maces?
No, that came later.
Oh,
That was a manufacturing puzzle that I wasn't quite big enough to solve yet. So we started with supplements, and then went into kettlebells, and then went into the maces. But all of that was part of the same idea.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I was building a human optimization movement that just started with supplements because that was the easiest way to scale based on very limited capital resources. I mean, I got $110,000 from 2 different friends and family, Bodie Miller and another, family friend, to start this whole business. And that's the only cash we've ever taken in from the start.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I, for myself,
But we got a lot of fucking help. People, like, this is not me. Like, I did this on. No, I got help from everybody. Everybody helped. Thank you, everybody. I couldn't have done it without every single one of them. I still couldn't do it without every single one of them.
You got a team of 15 people over there that are just in the media room, I think.
Absolutely.
And they're hustling around doing all kinds of stuff.
All kinds of stuff. From every stretch, from every person who's promoted it on a podcast, everyone who's been kind enough to give it a try and talk about it and share their experiences, to down to the customer level, down to the people packing boxes. We're all working together in all of this. And
how supplements are too. A lot of times there's a lot of skepticism.
For sure.
And when I tried Alpha Brain at first, I was like, oh, what's this really going to do? Last time I was here, I one of your people set me up with a bottle of it. And I was like, I'll just take, I took like one. I was like,
that's not going to do much.
Kind of hanging around, and didn't notice much, right? The next day, they told me that I probably need 2 or 3, but I'm always a big pussy when it comes to that kind of stuff at first. So the next day, I have my seminar here, and I take 3, and midway through the seminar, I'm like, I feel like I'm on fire right now. This feels pretty good. So I did notice a difference with it, and I still continue to use it.
Right on, my man. Right on. So I got to talk to you about one video I saw when I was kind of poking around. You had some power lifter in who's doing some rowing, and he just shattered all of the rowing records.
Oh my God.
That's an insane video for people to watch.
So that's Yeah, you're talking about Brian Shaw, who went on he did the Concept 2 rower, right?
Uh-huh.
And nearly snapped the damn thing in half. Yeah, Brian Shaw is a 6'8", 440-pound strongman competitor. He's a 4-time world's strongest man, and he's just a behemoth of a guy, and he's just has insane levels of strength. I think he's deadlifted over 1,000 pounds.
Pussy.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is too, he has a competitive fire in him too that it will come out here and there when he's talking about something, and you're like, I need to get the fuck out of this room. I don't know what the fuck this guy is capable of. I don't know if he's gonna rip me limb from limb. But yeah, he's unbelievable. Yeah, and he on that particular day he wanted to go after like the world record in the row. I forget how many seconds he was going for or whatever, but
it was like 200 meters or something.
Yeah,
like that.
he just went fucking crazy on it, and we had to have people stand on the sides of the rower because it looked like it was going to snap in the middle because he's producing so much force. I never seen anything like that in my life. It was incredible. But we've had a lot of great lifters throughout the years come to the gym, all-time world record holders in the deadlift, squat, bench press, all kinds of stuff. Really cool.
Yeah. All right, one max bench press tip for our meatheads who've been hanging on. Here and be like, God damn it! They're talking about all kinds of stuff.
Why did they talk about sex?
Bench press. We got to hit them with bench press just in case they've been waiting. Thank you, meatheads, for hanging on. Here's our gift to you.
Yeah,
bench press. Ready, go.
Yeah. So with bench press, I would say there's a lot of things to think about when you're bench pressing, but I'd say the main thing is. What I share with everybody on all the exercises is just don't go too fucking heavy. Everyone makes the mistake of going too heavy. Their form falls apart. Their technique falls apart. They end up getting injured. They end up getting hurt.
Don't watch my Instagram, Mark Bell. Don't judge me, people. I go too heavy.
It's one of those things. It's just gonna take some time, which
it's like
everybody
a cheat meal.
hates.
I feel like benching for me is like a cheat meal.
Yeah.
I just go ham. Just eat all the sugar.
Everyone hates to hear that it's gonna take time, but my advice to you guys that are listening is to change it up. Find some different movements so you're not falling into the same movement pattern every single time, because that's how you end up getting injured. You end up trying to push the envelope too much with this one exercise. So don't be afraid to do an incline bench one week. Don't be afraid to do a close grip bench. Don't be afraid to go a little bit wider. Don't be afraid to do some pause work. Or there's so many variations that you can get into. Why not utilize those variations? Why not press against bands or press against chains? You can press out of a squat rack. You can do like a pin press. There's so many options that it doesn't make any sense to do the same thing week in and week out, 52 weeks a year. So just try something different. Mm-hmm. The other thing I would advise, and this goes with any part of your programming, it could be squat, bench, or deadlift. The best program is the one you're currently not doing. So if you are doing something right now that you've been doing for a long time and it seems like you're at the end of your rope, and switch shit up. If you've only been doing sets of 3 and sets of 1 for the last 4 years, do sets of 5, do sets of 8, do sets of 10. Switch your training up completely. Fuck powerlifting for a little while. Bodybuild or something. Just try something different. Try some fucking yoga, whatever. Take yourself away from it. When you come back to it, the stimulus will be greater.
I like it, my man. I like it. It's been a pleasure having you out here.
Yeah,
man.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
It's been good. Anything, anywhere you want to point people, any of your social media or any of your platforms that you want to let people know about?
Yeah, check out howmuchyoubench.net if you want any strength gear. And also check out my Instagram, my Twitter. It's at Mark Smelly Bell.
Beautiful. Thank you, my brother. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Peace.
Hell yeah.